Hey, you're listening to Squirrel. I'm Audrey. Today's episode was recorded outside, with birds in the background and a lot of spiraling in the foreground. A few of us got together to ask, should we follow reason or emotion? Is evil a choice? What even makes someone good? Things got heated, and not just because of the sun. Shoes were thrown. The trolley problem showed up. Bias got personal. Stay with us, and maybe ask yourself a few questions along the way.
Do you think reason or emotion is the right thing to follow?
I think it depends on depends on the life you want to live. I think emotion for a lot of people, it's like you don't necessarily care as much about the outcome. You're just doing things to please yourself in the moment, where rationality, you're looking for things that are going to prolong, like in the long term, that's going to benefit you.
That's one emotional decision just leads to more emotional decisions.
I agree.
I think that makes it, at least to me, the wrong way of living, because then you just keep ending up in situations where, like, you choose.
I have a question that applies. I feel like depends on what you think is right, because, for example, Pi.
Editor Audrey here. Jess is referring to Pi Patel from Life of Pi, written by Jan Martel.
He used emotion in a right way to cope, and I feel like emotion related to his religious faith and how he clung on to it while he was at the sea, but it was also the right way to go against his emotion and be logical with, for example, killing the fish, even though it went against his morals. So
I keep bringing up, I want to talk about biases, but I haven't really expanded that. It really goes along with what we're talking about. What I'm saying, should we have bias? Because, I've, posed that question, so I've thought about it myself a little bit, but...
Should we have...
So I think when we say, should we have bias? I think it's, a really easy thing to say, no, obviously we shouldn't have bias, but, then I'm thinking, what are we without bias? Because isn't everything we do biased? Aren't our relationships biased? Aren't, talking about empathy, obviously I'm gonna be more empathetic to you guys than somebody on the street, we agree that shouldn't be how it is, so I don't know, I guess, I think it goes with, logically we shouldn't have biases, but emotionally we have biases, you know what I mean? So that's
I think we have biases no matter what, because it's, a bias is, literally
okay, so
could
maybe,
just be how you brought
so,
up.
should we try to control our biases? Rephrase the question.
I think so. I think it's something we have, but it's not something we should have.
I agree.
I also think it's, impossible to avoid.
I think
it's something we should just limit.
I agree that it's impossible to avoid, but I think your question is, should we have it, right? I think we shouldn't have biases, because, your idea with the people you love, and that's bias, but I'm just imagining if you loved everyone equally.
But I don't think the world would go on if everyone had no biases. There would be no decision making. There'd be no, because I feel like the biases help us make decisions.
The whole because what we're beating around the bush is the idea of utilitarianism, which when I was thinking about this myself, I also thought of that, and I ideologically utilitarianism sounds really good. Basically, that's just when a society where everyone is equal.
No.
Or isn't it
it's you want the greatest good for
the greatest good for the greatest, yeah. Which if we had no biases, though, theoretically, yeah, it's different but similar. Would I really want to live in that world? That sounds terrible to say. I wouldn't want to live in a world where the greatest good is done, but I would rather save U6 or U5 than 20 random people that I have never met before. Maybe you guys would disagree. Well, that's a clear bias, but I wouldn't want to live in a world that,
Then I think that's, we do have bias because you want that, but we should avoid bias because, I think more logically thinking, we can know that saving 20 people might be better.
Would you do that?
Would create more happiness.
I think it's also, though, biases can also keep us safe in some situations, because if you think about, trust with people, or if you have biases, obviously not all biases are good, but if you have a bias towards a certain thing and then you start to see trends of that and you already are clued against it, then your better judgment is going to be to go away from it even before a thing happens. So
or you think
this is a small example, but if you see a creepy white van, we are all trained creepy white van means danger, go away.
Yeah.
If we didn't have biases and we were just it could just be a nice guy who's driving the van. Okay, yes, but however, if the creepy white van gets too close, then you're not ever gonna get away.
Yeah.
And like you can apply that to larger things. There's certain things that keep us safe, and I think without biases against other people.
So to sum it up, biases aren't always bad.
Yeah.
Isn't that like prejudice?
I think it depends on.
Yeah, should we define bias?
Yeah, because I think they're different. We were talking about the scenario more like you make choices because you favor a group. I think that's more like bias, but prejudice maybe is different.
Bias
I think
is just,
prejudice
like, emotional
also-
thinking, not logical. Like maybe the white van isn't biased because you can think like statistically this is like maybe not my best choice to go in this
But
white
I
van.
think not everyone is going to be trained to think that way. It's our biases because like we've grown up in that's how we've been trained to think. Where think about somewhere where cars aren't a big
Yeah, biases and
thing,
prejudices
and a
are
broken
both
down white van might be like something amazing showing.
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
biases and prejudices both are learned. So what's the difference between them, I guess, is what. I think you guys actually agree. I don't think we disagree
Either. I think it's just I'm trying to have them.
Do you think, because like when I hear prejudice, I think more like racism. I
Yeah.
think like discriminatory bias. So is that
That's
maybe the
not-
quality? Is prejudice discriminatory bias and bias is just bias, or does prejudice not have that connotation? I don't know.
What is prejudice? I know what it is, but it just blew me away.
Should we look at the definition?
I think it's when you assume assume qualities of a person based on their
Appearance,
feature.
yeah.
It's like a stereotype.
Yeah,
Sort of,
but
but
some
more
stereotypes.
Preconceived
harmful.
opinion that is not based on reason or factual experience. Bias.
Wait, Cole, I really like your definition.
What was it?
That bias is emotional
Okay, bias-
thinking,
Yeah.
but not reason. I think
Yeah,
that-
but couldn't you say prejudice is that also?
yeah.
No, I think
If you sorry.
like prejudice is still based off of logic, even if it has like a emotional effect. I think like bias is less like logically based. It's more you just assume something about someone.
Bias, the definition of bias, at least from the dictionary, is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Okay, so maybe bias is like specifically to groups.
Yeah, that has a comparison.
Yeah.
But I also think because we talk about biases a lot in like classes and like how you were raised, and I guess that is towards different groups. Because if you're like raised in the Midwest versus raised on the East Coast, and then even South versus North, like you're just like grown up around different norms.
Yeah,
I think-
is culture a bias then?
Yes, I think you're
Bias.
Culture a bias?
Culture a bias. If culture
Like
is
the culture you've
I
come
think
from
culture
is a
like
bias.
fosters bias.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so
don't think culture is biased. Yeah, go ahead.
if culture is a bias, there's no reason to say that bias is a bad thing. It actually helps us become more human. I think it helps us stay in our culture.
So this
It's
like
not necessarily a good thing.
this is still coming back to is utilitarianism good?
Wait,
Because
what?
Yeah,
no,
I think
no,
it is.
think
I
about
think that's like
yeah,
the moral.
that's the
like,
central
that's what
question that we're.
everything
Yeah.
I don't think it. I mean, I think in.
No,
I
wouldn't,
think in
wouldn't
theory it's
wouldn't utilitarianism go against culture?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the same
Yeah.
thing as do you help your community first, or do you
Right,
help
do you
whatever
help them?
can help the most people? I guess that's.
But I think like that it's almost like it's getting very philosophical here because it's like reminding me of the trolley, where it's like
Oh,
you
yeah, I
say
was
one
thinking
person
that.
or three, like you're still gonna kill someone.
But I don't get that. I think you just kill one, because one is less than three.
Yeah, but it gets more complicated.
But think
when,
about it,
when you
Cole,
know the one.
when you
and
know the
don't
one
know
versus
the
you
five.
I
don't
know,
know
but
the three.
so
you have a
maybe I
choice.
won't say
You have a
I will
choice.
do this, but thinking from like a third person, I can say I should. for
That's the
one
thing,
person.
though. Like, it's really easy
the
to
moment.
like. I think all of us would probably agree. Like, if you're talking about a decision that affects two communities that you're not a part of, then it's really easy to take a utilitarianism view. But when one of the communities you're a part of, that's when I think makes a decision.
Like
really
Cole, like would
difficult.
you rather like again save your family or save two families you don't know?
Yeah, like,
like
I know
you would save your
I'd
family,
rather do.
I think.
I'd rather save my family emotionally, but like logically, I know not to. But I think that's where life is filled with like those decisions where you can choose to do what's like best for yourself or what's just like best. And I think that's
I don't.
easier said than done, but like you should choose
So you
to
think
kill your own.
you think we should always choose what's like best?
That's I think what should like is like what should means. Sure.
I agree, but I don't think we know what's best.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, in that trolley situation where... And I hate the trolley problems. And I, like, whenever someone brings it up, I'm like, I hate
Wait,
this.
do you guys talk about that in maths?
Trolley problem? Yeah, it was like our maths final. We had some of like trolley problems, but we don't really talk. Like I hate it because it's very oversimplified and it takes
away so much variance.
And so like in this situation, we're saying the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people is the number of lives, but that's not.
If it was Hitler on the track, we would kill Hitler.
Exactly. So you can't. I don't think we ever know what's best.
But like, it's also tough to. That's how it is. Would be realistic. You don't know the person you're making, who you're killing or saving.
Yeah, when you're talking about policy or something.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like you can just assume that.
We have to assume that human life.
You have to assume that everyone's like the average in that case. I don't know. Because you could also say, like, hey, there's a chance it's Hitler on the track, but there's also a chance it's like Mother Teresa.
No, but also that's a really interesting point because if you don't assume that, even using logic, like flawed logic, you could put policy into place that's, I'm thinking racist, a number of different like discriminatory things. Because say you choose to invest in white neighborhoods because they statistically have better whatever to the economy, whatever, rather than other, and like statistically that if you're like just that seems like the right choice, but that's not accounting for. In that case, like bias is
Systematic
needed
racism.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
so it's
to me that's not bias.
So you have to assume that everyone is.
I think to me like the bias in that situation.
Sorry, I don't think you understand my whole like.
No, I know you.
Oh, you know, okay.
I think maybe in the trolley situation, like bias would be assuming that the person on the other track is Hitler because that's what suits you, and that's like what bias is.
Yeah.
Even though the odds are they're not Hitler, odds are they're also not Mother Teresa, but it'd be biased to assume one of them.
But in my example, if we're talking about odds, like white people in that example do have better odds. Like,
yeah, I know. That's like a numbers.
Obviously.
Yeah. But then it would be bias.
So that's when it's like you need bias to not be racist.
But then it would be bias. Right? I think bias is still. Maybe this is just my thought process. Is like bias is less logical. Bias would be like if two equal like neighborhoods, like, and then since I'm white, I like chose the white one. Is Hitler less equal than Mother Teresa?
That's a really good question.
Now we're talking about effect versus
less equal.
Okay, Immanuel Kant said that you should treat every humans as an ends, not a means. I think I've mentioned this like 20 times by now. But he thinks that all humans are not inherently equal, but like they should all be treated as humans.
I think instinctually I wanted to say like Hitler's worth less than Mother Teresa, but then it's like that can just go on forever also, because then is an immigrant worth less than an American or something like that, and you can just go into those like nuanced things.
But I don't think we should be using like Hitler as an example, because I think we can all agree that like someone who's willing to put that much harm against someone else is like.
Yeah, but
do you think
when you shrink the gap,
it becomes harder.
Do you
but
think
when you're on that extreme, I don't think, because that's like saying like Ted Bundy or like.
Well, but do you think a person's actions can affect their value as a person?
Yes.
I think. Yeah, you go.
I was just gonna say, I think so. I think if you think about, okay, let's talk about like in a community. If there's like somebody who's going around killing people for fun, like the community, like their value as a person is like way less, because it's like they're not.
I get your point, but we should probably, like, most people who are murderers are psychopaths and not. I don't think that. I mean, this is a whole other discussion, but I don't think they're fully like human.
Okay, then let's just say there's like someone in the community who's literally top tier bum. Okay, it doesn't work, but because they're choosing not to work, they're cheating on their spouse.
Bartleby?
I would rather not.
I would prefer not.
I would prefer not to.
But they're like doing all these things that are.
Do you think anybody really chooses to be a bad person?
I think
in some cases, in some cases, like they justify to themselves, like a lot of cases, like they justify themselves that they're right.
Wait, guys.
So it's like they don't think they're bad.
How would you like measure bad though? Are you judging by their actions or like the consequences? Like how would you?
I think by their
actions.
I think actions. not consequences.
I also think intent of action.
I also think it's like
It can't be both.
no one's like perfect. So
I don't think it can be intent and action.
I think it's
So you
action,
say
not
it has to be
intent.
one.
But I think there's sometimes people do things and it's like their intent wasn't to harm others. I think
No, if I understand your point completely, but it goes both ways. Sometimes people have good intentions and they kill thousands of people.
Wait, yeah.
So does that make it a good action? That's
Well,
what I'm saying.
But
I
that's
think
the
you have to judge
consequence,
by
that's not the
consequence.
I think
no,
you have to judge
but
by action.
for example,
Oh yeah,
Like-
there's intention, action, and consequence.
I've always thought that intention should be part of the judgment for how good they are.
Yeah.
Because I thought my thoughts would be hurt to other people, and my actions would be always wouldn't actually matter at all. But I saw this movie again, the Bugs Life.
Oh, Bugs
The guy,
Life.
the inventor, he says, "Oh, I'm doing this for good, for the ant family."
Yeah.
And what he makes the ant family is in their danger. So I think it's a balance between both. It shouldn't be just one.
I think it's just action. Because I think we all do things that are wrong that we know are wrong. Like even on a small, like obviously we don't go killing people, but I think like that scale can be applied to
But
like
then that goes
maybe
back-
somebody like Ted Bundy. Sorry, it's like he was like
Serial killer.
I don't know him in particular, but someone who like kills someone maybe, or at least when I watched Jeffrey Dahmer, like the movie, at least the TV show, it made it seem like he like killed someone and then regret it. So then it's like your actions. He was a bad person, but his intentions weren't always bad because he knew what he was doing was wrong. So if you think of it as like what's going on inside someone's head justifies them being a bad person, then I think like then you could say that Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't a bad person.
But
It's his actions that are.
I think that's why you have to use a combination, as you said. It's both. Because think about someone who's, let's say I'm throwing you something, and you're not like looking for that second, okay? And I hit you really hard. And it's like, that action was bad, but the intent I had was just to toss you something.
But you should have thought before.
But I don't.
Yeah, when that happens, it really hurts.
But I don't think any of that was necessarily evil.
It really hurts. Sometimes you get a black eye.
Sorry, that happened. Yeah, that happened. There was an incident.
See this mark right here?
There was an incident. Okay.
What?
There was an
What was
incident.
Oh my god.
I threw a shoe to Choi, and then he started playing Clash Royale.
It hit me in the face.
Hit me in the face.
Oh my god.
It was really funny.
I
Okay,
think
anyway.
you can't like measure it just based on action because if you think about it, Pi, for example, like sorry guys, I just finished the book and I'm really intrigued. But like, he killed a fish. Okay, that's not extreme.
Wait, why don't we
but-
do the example of him killing a human?
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay,
Yeah.
we were just talking too much about the fish today. Okay, for example, he killed a human, but his situation was that he was stranded in the sea. Like, in that situation, like, would he still be evil if, like, people on the boat were like, if, like,
So
cannibalism
I think you
or,
would
like,
argue that it's situational.
Then I think it's like people can do evil things without being evil.
Yeah, I agree with that. Think about people who they get put in situations where it's like their only choice
All right,
is
so we would classify people who don't have a choice of doing evil things as well, but they always have a choice. You could die. He didn't have to eat.
I think if you say anyone is evil,
Yeah, that's also.
then you're just like me. I think on a smaller scale, if I do something like bad or like evil,
throw
like,
shoe at
what is
yeah,
evil?
if I throw a shoe at Annie, even though it hurt her, it's not the same as like
Suffering.
killing her. But it's even if I did that intentionally, that was like an evil action. But I don't think.
it
Then
doesn't
I'm
make-
just as evil as.
Does
someone
it
who, like,
matter?
killed
Does it
someone
matter?
else.
Okay, but so that's like no sin is different.
Yeah.
So would it matter if I had gotten really upset that you hit me with the shoe?
Yeah.
Do you think does that matter when we're quantifying bad
Yeah.
reaction?
I think everybody is evil.
This is suffering. Let's go back to suffering.
Well, I
When
think
we're
that
talking about quantifying badness, it has to be suffering.
I think that can be evil that doesn't cause suffering to other people. if you're
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
Right.
jealous
that's
of
why
someone.
Suffering is such a good answer because like it's really obviously it's not measurable, but like it helps to answer those questions. Because if you had kicked me and I didn't suffer at all, then it wouldn't have been an evil thing because there was no suffering created. Like you quantify badness based on how much suffering is created. Or would you disagree?
I disagree.
I disagree. Because think about
Really?
a bad person who's like in their mind, who they might not act upon it all the time, but like they don't cause suffering to other people. They're just like,
You think that's still bad?
yeah.
I think
I mean, we might not know it, but I think thought.
I mean, I could think right now I'm gonna murder you. Does that make me evil?
Yes.
Really? That's just like
I don't think so.
That's just like a. Don't we all have like young uncontrollable thoughts?
That's true.
That doesn't
That's
mean
what I
you're
mean.
evil
Then we're
unless,
all evil.
unless you like
You act
actually
upon
take
it.
you act.
Yeah.
I think everybody's evil. It's just that we tend to label some people as more evil because Annie said the actions that they did caused more suffering.
But is this just a really pessimistic view to think about everybody's evil? Like,
Well, I think it's like the right view.
I think we either say everyone's evil. and
Everyone's
no one's
good.
evil. And I say no one's evil.
I think everyone's evil.
I like to think that no one's evil. It's just
But honestly, I think
It
Audrey and I are
happens.
saying the same thing here. It's just
the reverse.
the words don't have like a bigger meaning. I don't know. The words are just words to it. I think we're both have the same thoughts.
We do, yeah. There's this. I'm just thinking about. There's a story in the Bible where like a girl is like being sentenced to be stoned because she adultery, yeah. And like these men are like stoning, and then they're about to stone her, and they go up to Jesus and they say,
Take part.
"Okay, this person committed adultery. What do you say?
He joined in the crowd.
Do you say we stone her because that's following the law, and you have to follow the law?" And then Jesus says, "The person who has never sinned, you throw the first stone."
Yeah. I think also that it's like Bible also says to separate like the sin and like the sinner, like to hate a sinner, not hate the sinner. So, but then it's like everyone sins, or at least that's my ideology. It's like everyone sins, but you can hate like someone's actions and what they do, and the thought process behind it without hating them or categorizing them.
Do you guys think people can change? Because that adds another layer of nuance too.
I think some people can. I think some people can.
Really?
I think everyone.
What?
Can.
What's the difference?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a.
Well, do you think it's some people choose to change and some people don't?
I
so
don't
then
know.
that would-
I genuinely don't know. But I think like people can change. But I think there are people who are either against it or like they just can't.
So you don't think there's any hope for those people? Like, you don't think there's a possibility that they could change if they like,
I
were
think we can
surrounded by a
have-
positive environment for long enough?
I think we can have hope for them, but then there's just some people who just don't. I don't know if they can't, don't want to. But I think people can change, but I think there are some people who can't.
So how would you?
But I don't know what.
I think people like subconsciously choose not to.
Yeah,
But
that's
then
what
like a flip can be switched.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think I would say everyone can be changed. I wouldn't say everyone does change, but I think everyone
Yeah,
can.
okay, that's valid. I also think it's like,
It's hard to change.
I think it's hard to change, and I think depending on what you're trying to change, it's easier than some things.
Sure.
And I think the issue, okay, this is something, actually, okay, I could talk about this for a really long time. I think once people have a pattern of something, like a pattern of acting a certain way,
It's hard to.
it's, even if they change and they've been doing well for a long time, the second they go back
Dexter.
to, for a second, everybody
Anyone get that
around-
reference?
Okay, I got that reference. But,
New blood.
yeah, but that's not
start
what I'm
of the
trying
new
to say,
season.
though. But this is more of
You get really good at going to bed early, and then you go back to
No, I'm talking about if someone is, like,
more moral.
mean, okay? Someone is just, like, bullying you. Years go by, and then you meet them again. They're a really great person. You become friends with them. And then they say something that's mean, but it's not. When they do something that reminds you of that action, your guards go back up, and although...
It has effect on you, but not them.
So they might have changed, but it's hard for other people to recognize that, which means your attitudes towards that person are going to be negative still, and then that person is going to not continue, like their growth is going to be halt.
That person.
But I don't think that. Yeah, they did. But I don't think that bias halts growth necessarily.
I think if everyone around you isn't...
could.
Imagine everyone's treating you like a bully when you're no longer a bully. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I think biases can hinder your growth for sure.
yeah.
It's to make a revolution, you always find what's beneath everything. you find the basis of the system and then break it apart. I think
That's really true.
when we're young, that's where we
Build the foundation.
build what biases we should choose. Choose what kind of biases with reasoning and emotion. And then as we get older,
Wow, I wish I was like conscious when I was 6 years old.
in the 60s we could
No, like
say that
So
that
parenting's
is
so
our identity.
Sometimes I don't think you get to choose what biases you
yeah,
have.
Yule likes this choose word.
You grow up and your parents basically shape, or your upbringing shapes you.
I think that's what bias is. It's not a choice. I think
Do you think prejudice is a choice?
maybe prejudice is a choice.
We can
but
see
I
it.
think it's something else if it's a
What
choice.
about think about like someone who's like grows up in a really liberal or really conservative household and then they're the opposite. So
That'd be a bias also.
that's I know that's a bias, but is that necessarily? I mean, I guess it's caused from their upbringing, but like, how would they even know to act any different?
Because I think they would find someone who. This is back to the.
Identity. Yeah.
I think they.
If bias is inherent or everything.
Yeah, that's literally back to the. I think they would have
Cells
been.
interlinked. Do you know what?
No.
Interlinked. Okay.
That's
No
not
one
a
is getting my
reference.
references today. Wow.
Hey guys, if we go in a group where everyone's different, we finally realize what our biases is.
That's why diversity is so important, bro. That's why I was literally
DEI.
talking about this. I brought this up in Amstad, and oh god, it was in my class, but like, it's so true. Like, you said it. It's just so true.
I agree. I also think that's why it's important for us to bring in other different thinkers, because at some point, not every time, but like, it's important for us to see how other people are processing things, because I feel like a lot of times, although we might think about it differently, a lot of our views are the same. I think it would be interesting to talk to someone who has like very different views. Yeah, Kyle is a good
Guys, it's such a diverse group now that I think about it.
This is what like Cody Parks.
And thinking-wise, this is a very diverse group.
Yeah.
This is good. I could see just what our traits are.
Yeah.
Name them.
I don't.
It's a feeling.
Not
It's
yet,
a feeling.
not yet, yeah. I don't know it.
We can't put it
works.
into words.
I have a question.
Okay.
Because we're talking about the importance of diversity, right? But do you think you should choose friends who you feel... There's a word in Chinese that's sangguan, which means like 3 things. You have to have... Basically, it's the idea that you will only be compatible with someone if your 3 things are the same. And that's one is like worldview, one is like personal values, I forget, like one is like relationship with others. It's like essential things. Do you think you should have friends that you match in those essential moral values with?
I think, okay, like, when I think of diversity, I mostly think of diversity about, not necessarily ethnicity, but like, where we grew up, whether that's geographically or socioeconomically or religiously. Like, those are the 3 main categories that I think, like, category like a diverse group. If they have representation from all of those things, I think that makes it a very diverse group. And like culturally is probably another good way to say it, which like oftentimes is associated with race, but I don't think race. Okay, anyway, to your question, Audrey, I think like people in any of those categories can agree on those things, which therefore in my like way of thinking would make them a diverse, like it would be a diverse friend group, but still have all those. So it's not necessarily
one or
have
the
to
other?
be, yeah.
So you think it's important to have?
I think it's important to have.
I think it's hard to be.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
It's think about if you're thinking about like different political views. I personally find it very hard. I can be friendly with those people, but having them in my close circle when you know their core values are so different than yours, in the sense of
That's just moral. That's just moral values,
like moral.
Because I bet you, like someone who has the same values of you on abortion, immigration,
but
and
had a
something
different
else,
political...
but had a different value on some economic thing that affected taxes. You wouldn't care.
I don't think any of
so
the
that's just a moral thing. I think that's one of the categories.
I don't think anything you just said is moral, though. I think it's just based off upbringing and information that you get.
Like abortion and...
I agree
I don't
with
think
that.
that's a moral choice. I think that's political.
I think when it comes down to like human rights, it is moral.
Morals in general?
Morals.
I don't think so. I think it's like a game.
I think it has.
It's moral.
I think it has moral roots, but we've come very far from those roots.
I think if everybody had the exact same information, all of us would make the exact same choice because we all have the same morals.
But I think the thing is that a lot of people, they're given the
We all just have
information.
different upbringings, but our morals are like what we all have in common.
But
That's nature versus nurture.
I have to disagree only because think about someone like, I believe that like a woman's right to her bodily autonomy is a moral. Like having the right to your own body, like not having the right to your own body is morally wrong. And asking someone else to not have the right to their own body is morally wrong. And that's something that's become very political because of abortion rights. And I think even though people are given the information, they don't care. They still think it's wrong. And that is different morals.
I think that's where it's like maybe a man or someone. Like I agree with you, but if I like grew up as a guy and then I like didn't, I think morally I would still say, you know, everyone should be able to make their own choice, blah, blah, blah. But then the nature around me is like more conservative, and then eventually I just start making different decisions. I don't know. I just think, what are morals if they're not like universal?
But then I think your morals
Because he's saying
would be different.
information isn't universal, so you can't have universal morals if you don't have universal
it's not an
information.
impossible thing for everybody to agree because we all have different lives. But I think like morals are like all the same. I think people just like now twist like information to
Logical
actual
fallacies.
Do you think that if
morals.
we had the same upbringing, we'd have the same
Yeah.
morals?
But that's what I'm trying to say is that I don't think everyone does have the same morals. And yes, if we all had the same information, we would have the same morals, potentially.
That's it for part 1 of this conversation. If you've ever tried to follow logic and ended up in a moral mess, you're in good company. We'll pick things up next time with talk of belief, altruism, and the difference between morals and values. Follow Squirrel to catch part 2, and share it with a friend who's not afraid to spiral.